very clear and apparent. The owners let it be known. We're not doing that $10.5 million cap thing y'all was talking about. The players, you know, they was doing this whole, we're on one front. Are y'all crazy? This is crazy. There seems to be a real divide amongst the players here. So the delegation was made up of, in the grand scheme of things, nobody that has a following or even a big name, just people you would pass on in the street and not even recognize. Smart. Yeah. So that's what it is, man.
The air in the New York City conference room was thick with anticipation that had curdled over 3 hours into something harder and colder. For months, the Women's National Basketball Players Association, WNBPA, had prepared for this moment, the direct face-to-face meeting with the actual owners of the WNBA's 12 franchises. This was the confrontation they had demanded, the shortcut past league bureaucrats and negotiators straight to the men and women who controlled the purse strings. They arrived believing the force of their unity, the undeniable surge in the league's popularity, and the moral weight of their cause would bend reality in that room. They carried with them two non-negotiable pillars: a $10.5 million team salary cap and a 30% share of league-wide revenue for the players. These weren't just numbers. They were symbols of
any offer y'all sent with those last two offers, y'all shouldn't have brought it in this meeting. We're not doing a $10.5 million salary cap. We're not doing a 30% revenue sharing. You wasted your time getting on a plane if that's what you showed.
A new era, a declaration that the WNBA's financial model must be rebuilt from the ground up. They left in silence. Nneka Ogwumike, the WNBPA president, a pillar of the league and the delegation's leader, offered no comment to the waiting press, her expression inscrutable but her pace deliberate as she moved past the cameras. Her silence was the first, loudest statement. The owners, meanwhile, had delivered theirs with brutal clarity inside that closed door. The message, as relayed by those with knowledge of the meeting, was not a negotiation but a flat, unadorned rejection. We're not doing a $10.5 million salary cap.
Alexa Philippou, the WNBA and WNBPA met in New York City for about 3 hours today. The player delegation included Nneka Ogwumike, Alicia Clark, Breanna Turner, and Stephanie Dolson. Nafisa Collier and Kelsey Plum had travel issues and didn't make it to New York. Ogwumike and company declined to comment on the PA's way out.
We're not doing a 30% revenue share. You wasted your time getting on a plane if that's what you showed up with. This wasn't a setback. It was a seismic event that cracked the carefully constructed public facade of the players' movement. In an instant, the leverage the union had spent a year painstakingly building through social media campaigns, public solidarity, and the authorization of a potential work stoppage seemed to evaporate. Worse, the hard line from ownership acted like a stress test on the players' own coalition, revealing fissures and fault lines that had been glossed over in the name of unity. What was supposed to be a breakthrough had become a breakdown, exposing the raw, complicated calculus of power, risk, and survival that defines professional sports labor disputes. The standoff was no longer about slogans. It had become a real-life pressure test with the future of the league hanging in the balance. To understand the shock of that New York meeting, one must first appreciate the trajectory that led the players to believe a historic reset was within reach. The 2023 and 2024 seasons were not just successful, they felt
You know, we're all agreed and we're all in for everything. We're on the same page. No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. And now it's coming out that the owners they stood their ground in this meeting and the players are now
transformative. A generational influx of talent, headlined by Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and Cameron Brink, collided with a savvy, digitally native marketing push and a growing public appetite for women's sports. Arenas that were once half full saw sellouts. Television ratings shattered records. The league, long spoken of in terms of potential and perseverance, was suddenly buzzing with a palpable, mainstream nowness. This cultural and commercial surge formed the bedrock of the players' demands. Their argument was elegantly simple. We are the product driving this unprecedented growth. Our talent, our personalities, and our sacrifices are fueling record revenues, new media deals, and soaring franchise valuations. Therefore, the economic structure of the league must reflect our fundamental contribution. The previous collective bargaining agreement, CBA, while progressive for its time, was seen as a vestige of an era of scarcity. The $10.5 million cap, a significant jump from the previous figure, and the 30% revenue share were framed as not just asks, but as rightful claims on the value they were creating. The WNBPA's public strategy was a masterclass in modern labor advocacy, led by Ogwumike and the executive committee, which included stars like Breanna Stewart, Kelsey Plum, and Natasha Cloud. The union projected an image of unshakable solidarity. Social media was a constant drumbeat of number one voice and number bet on women. Players spoke in interviews of being locked in and on the same page. They secured a near-unanimous vote to authorize the executive committee to call a strike if necessary, a powerful...
Said y'all all was on the same page. Y'all said that, oh, we got this under control. Oh, what? We will not effing move. In the words of Natasha Cloud, we will not effing move. We will not effing move. Well, your ass about to get moved over. Another group says that though there are still some matters to be negotiated, the players have already gained significant ground.
Symbolic weapon. They insisted on meeting ownership directly, a tactical move designed to bypass what they perceived as an obstructive league office and appeal to the ultimate decision makers. The narrative was clear. A united, determined, and morally justified player base was riding a wave of popular support to demand their fair share from a league finally ready to pay it. The meeting in New York was the culmination of this strategy. The player delegation, Ogwumike, Cloud, Breanna Turner, and Stephanie Dolson, with Plum and Nafisa Collier unable to attend due to travel issues, walked in believing they held the cards. They expected, if not capitulation, then at least a serious counter-proposal, a starting point for negotiation. They believed the owners, seeing their conviction and the league's booming metrics, would be compelled to move. Instead, they ran into a wall of immovable economic logic. The owners
Y'all thought Adam was going to bend the knee and allow the other owners to go into a $700 million hole for y'all? Absolutely not, man. Are y'all crazy? This is crazy. The WNBA and WNBPA met for 3 hours. The players, so Nneka was there, Alicia Clark was there, Breanna Turner was there. Can we please get Breanna Turner off the Indiana Fever? Please get this lady off the Indiana Fever.
Representing a group that has historically absorbed significant losses to keep the WNBA afloat, viewed the demands not as ambitious but as untenable. Their rejection was not merely of the numbers, but of the premise. From their perspective, the league, while growing, is not yet universally profitable. Expansion requires massive capital investment. Media rights optimism is just that optimism until a deal is signed. They argued they cannot structure their business on projected future revenues, especially not with a model, 30% revenue share, that would create a massive fixed financial liability before operational costs are even considered. The owner's message was a cold bucket of reality. We are not going to take a $700 million hole for y'all. This was the voice of ownership, not as benevolent stewards, but as risk-bearing investors. They called the players' central demands a non-starter, refusing to even entertain them as a basis for discussion. In doing so, they accomplished two critical things. First, they stopped the players' momentum dead.
It's clear that some of y'all don't. It's clear. So there seems to be a real divide amongst the players here. And let's be real, am I surprised? No. Not surprised by this. We're not surprised by this. At the end of the day, these players have done everything they can to push the fans away and all of this stuff. And now, you know, you got Nneka Ogwumike saying she has no comment.
Second, and more insidiously, they shifted the pressure from themselves onto the union. The immediate aftermath was telling. Ogwumike's no comment was a stark departure from the union's typically proactive media stance. Then, almost immediately, reports began to surface, likely from strategic leaks by ownership or their allies, detailing dissent within the players' ranks. The public unity began to look performative, The phrase, "They said they were all on one front, but no, you're not," became a taunting refrain in the media narrative. The crack in the facade had been found, and ownership was expertly applying pressure to widen it. The leak about internal division was so damaging because it pointed to an existential truth the union had tried to manage. A professional sports roster is not a monolith. It is a collection of individuals with wildly different financial profiles, career timelines, and risk tolerances. The owner's hard line forced these differences to the surface, transforming a philosophical debate into a deeply personal calculation. On one side of the internal split were the Hawks players, often among the league's elite stars, who believed this was a once-in-a-generation moment to wield maximum leverage. They saw the owner's refusal as a bluff. To them, the league's momentum was too precious to risk with a work stoppage, and ownership would ultimately fold if the players held firm, even if it meant striking. This faction, embodied by voices like Natasha Cloud's viral "We will not F.is. ing move" declaration, viewed compromise now as a betrayal of long-term potential. They were fighting for a fundamental restructuring, not just incremental raises. On the other side were the pragmatists. This group, which reportedly included influential veterans, looked at the deal reportedly on the table, a package that would push top salaries into the $400,000, $500,000 range and raise the floor for everyone, and saw life-changing security. For the vast majority of the league's players, those who don't have seven-figure overseas deals, million-dollar endorsements, or equity stakes in alternative leagues, this offer represented something profound: financial sustainability. It meant the possibility of not having to play year-round, of paying off debt, of investing, of focusing solely on their WNBA craft. This faction heard Caitlin Clark's earlier, seemingly moderate call for compromise, not as a rebuke to ownership, but as a quiet plea to her own union: take the win. This is the wedge that ownership understands intimately. A strike is not an equal sacrifice. A superstar with a Nike deal and off-season opportunities can absorb a missed season far more easily than a journeywoman fighting for a roster spot and living paycheck to paycheck. The question, "Are you willing to lose a year's salary?" has a radically different answer depending on who is asking it of whom. When reports surface that some are ready to walk, some are ready to sign, it reveals a coalition where incentives are not fully aligned. Solidarity is easy in press conferences. It is hardened in the fire of missed mortgage payments. The core of the negotiation is a clash of two legitimate but opposing perspectives on value and time. The players' leverage is built on momentum and morality. Their case is compelling. "We are the engine of this growth. The record ratings, sold-out jerseys, and cultural resonance are directly tied to us. To not share significantly in this success is unjust." Furthermore, striking now, while the
optional stuff maybe, so it probably was a good thing that the weather didn't allow them to get there. But WNBPA has horrible representation. Look, probably for the best fee didn't make it. She's not exactly disciplined in her messaging.
iron is hot and public sentiment is strong, could force a capitulation. They point to the transformative labor actions in other sports as a blueprint. The owner's leverage is built on the ledger and the clock. Their case is equally cold-blooded. Growth is not profitability. Our financial statements show continued losses for many teams, even with rising revenues. A 30% revenue share is a structural impossibility at current income levels. Furthermore, their bet is that the players' coalition will crack under the pressure of time. As training camps loom, schedules need finalizing, and individual financial pressures mount, the owners believe the mid-tier players, the heart of any union, will prioritize the tangible, life-altering money on the table over the uncertain promise of a better deal after a painful strike. They are also keenly aware of the fragility of momentum. The WNBA's current boom is exciting but nascent. It is driven by a specific rookie class and a surge of attention that has not yet been cemented into permanent habit. A work stoppage would catastrophically shift the narrative from rising sport to dysfunctional league. It would give casual fans a reason to disengage, and provide rival leagues an opportunity to position themselves as the stable future. The owners are effectively asking the players, are you willing to risk killing the golden goose for the chance at a few more golden eggs? This standoff is about more than salary caps and revenue percentages. It is about the fundamental model of a women's professional sports league. For the players, the ultimate goal is freedom. Freedom from the grinding, body-breaking necessity of playing overseas in the off-season to make ends meet. A truly livable WNBA salary would allow players to rest, train, and develop in the off-season, potentially elevating the quality of play and extending careers. It would allow them to build roots in their communities and become bigger stars domestically. It's about transforming the WNBA from a seasonal gig in a global basketball circuit into a standalone premier career. For the owners, it is about building a sustainable business. They are investing millions in expansion, Golden State, Toronto, arena upgrades, and marketing. They see a path to profitability, but it requires controlled costs and strategic growth. They are willing to increase player investment significantly, but only at a pace that matches revenue, not one that leaps recklessly ahead of it. They fear that an unsustainable CBA could cripple the league, just as it reaches its commercial inflection point. The New York meeting changed everything because it called the union's bluff. The owners stared at the players' maximum demands and their threat of a strike and did not blink. In doing so, they exposed the weakest link in any labor action: the requirement of absolute, enduring unity. Now, the WNBPA faces a brutal choice, compressed by the ticking clock of the preseason. Option A: take the deal. Accept the significant generational raise that is reportedly on the table, a deal that would make the WNBA the best-paying women's league in the world by a wide margin. Lock in the gains, capitalize on the current momentum with an uninterrupted season, and live to fight another day in 5 or 6 years when the league's financial picture is even stronger. The risk here is looking like they overplayed their hand, accepting a loss after months of militant rhetoric, and potentially demoralizing the most militant segment of their membership. Option B: escalate to a strike. Bet that the owners are bluffing too. Bet that the threat of a canceled season, the loss of TV revenue, and the corrosion of the league's brand will force them back to the table with a better offer. This is a high-stakes gamble that requires near-total participation. The risks are catastrophic: fracturing the union publicly, alienating fans, squandering a historic moment of growth, and potentially emerging with a worse deal after months of financial hardship for players. The silence from the player leadership post-meeting suggests they are in the agonizing throes of this decision. Ownership, smelling the tension, is likely waiting, allowing the internal pressure to build. Their firm no was not just a negotiating position. It was a trap designed to force the players to choose between two painful paths. The future of the WNBA hinges on which path the players choose, and whether they can choose it together. The league stands at a precipice. One path leads forward with compromise, growth, and immediate, tangible progress. The other leads into the volatile, unpredictable terrain of a labor war, where the only certainty is that everyone, owners, players, and fans, will get hurt. The meeting in New York was supposed to provide clarity. Instead, it revealed just how complex, how personal, and how perilous the fight for the future truly is. The ball is in the players' court, and the shot clock is winding down. Stay locked in with my channel, Simply Explained, your home for the truth behind the WNBA headlines.